Test. Can everyone hear me? This is, very good afternoon, everyone. So a little bit about myself. My name is my name is Leslie. I'm from Singapore Bitcoin Club.
And today's session will be for the crypto exchanges, how they're evolving to the next level. Just a little bit of a brief through. We started our community in 2015. A little bit about myself. I'm also a project consultant in this space, in the crypto space itself. So these are some stats that Singapore Bitcoin Club has an outreach for. I won't bore you guys with this. And some of our partners that we are actually tied up with with our local crypto community. If you are interested for partnerships, you can actually email to us. Some of the values that we carry, I will just go through this quickly. So we were awarded the Best Crypto Community Award last year. We also run a trading community where we actually teach traders how to actually trade, specifically in crypto assets as well. Okay, so this is one of our classes. These are some of our founders and teachers that actually taught in Singapore Bitcoin Club. We also do public engagements. So in 2016, DBS actually invited us to give a talk on cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So we also do events as well. Do let us know if you have events in Singapore that you want to come by. Let us know. We can actually help you to organize events as well. So CoinMarketCap is going to have a event next week. If you guys are going to be in Singapore, do drop by. I'm not sure if the tickets are sold out. This is on the 12th and the 13th of November. Just let us know. We are one of the official media partners. This is some of the classes for what we do. This is our focus. So we do Blockchain 101. That's myself, where I would educate the corporates and even people to actually come in and learn about what cryptocurrencies and blockchain is. We also do the trading fundamentals, which is taught by professional traders. And last but not least, we also partner up with an arbitrage partner. How many of you here are familiar with arbitrage? Okay, so there's actually a lot of opportunities in crypto arbitrage. If you guys want to know more, we can actually talk more later. So this is the certificate that we will be giving out. So only for the blockchain itself, we are under the Access arm, educational arm. Access is the self-regulatory arm in Singapore to the MAS. So this is the information. I'll just quickly skip this. So today's topic is how crypto exchanges are evolving to the next level. Because of the space that I've been in since 2015, I've seen quite a number. So I'll just go through what I went through for you guys to understand, okay? So there are three things that I would like to go through, which is when we started, as in when I started in 2015, not doing when Bitcoin days or Mt. Gox days. I wasn't involved in that, but at least I can share the experience from 2015 onwards. Okay, so the beginning, the current, and the way forward. So 2015 itself was quite interesting because there were a lot of traders who wanted to trade Bitcoin, but there was no exchanges or not much exchanges that you see now. It's not so prevalent as in 2019. In a short span of 4 years, you see quite a number of exchanges coming up. Binance being the most famous one because they actually rose out of China, all right, and they actually grew to be the exchange that they were, or rather that they are now. And back then, 2015, it was very tough for traders to actually come and look for spaces to trade on. So this is this was what happens in the past, okay, and back then, if you want to trade Bitcoin, okay, there was no other places to trade, to be honest, okay. Back then, you only have Gemini, you have Bittrex. Coinbase was a fiat to crypto component, but this requires a very long KYC process. And then, of course, right now you have Binance, but Binance is only much later. All right, so I think it's only about 3 years ago. And back then in 2017, okay, so this is 2017, the price of Bitcoin was $1,000. How many of you were here during that time? I mean, I went through that time. So, okay, so relatively quite a number of new players. And so there was very limited places that people could actually trade Bitcoin. All right, and to get on Gemini in the first place is one of the biggest fiat to crypto in the US. Is actually the KYC is actually quite stringent, and Bittrex as well also. Okay, so but the current situation is as such. There's a lot of media that's actually playing out and sharing about information on cryptocurrencies itself, and there are so many opportunistic visionaries at this point of time, because you see different projects, how we had to go through the boom of the ICO, and at this point of time we're still going through some form of the crypto winter, and so right now you still see a lot of bad press about Bitcoin itself. How many of you here have heard at least one media from mainstream that talks about Bitcoin? Just a show of hands. Mainstream. None of you heard of it? Wow, this is interesting. Okay, doesn't matter. But most of the companies in media itself has been sharing of this. CNA, Channel News Asia, has been sharing ongoing for the past 4 weeks on what Bitcoin and blockchain is. To be honest, all right. So there was a series behind it, and because of this, a lot of people are curious about cryptocurrencies itself. Okay, and so that's the current situation that most of the eco space is experiencing at this point of time. And there's still a lot of interest on the ground, like how do I get involved in Bitcoin, and how do I actually buy my first Bitcoin? Because our adoption rate for in the eco space itself is less than probably 1% of the entire populace in Singapore. In the world. Alright? And what does that say to you? It means to say the market hasn't matured to a point where whereas everyone is using Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies for that matter on the streets prevalently. Okay? And so we all went through this this whole different business structures that the exchanges were doing previously. Previously, you didn't need an exchange. All you need to do was to create a smart contract on the Ethereum platform. And I'm just sharing one Ethereum platform only. There are many other platforms or protocols that you can actually use and create your own token. But creating an own token, you also need to create your market space. And as a result, they were contacting the exchanges to list them on their exchanges. And so exchanges kind of grew and evolved along the way because they needed a space, and they understand that there's a space for these new projects to list on. And so what did they do? They actually created IEOs, alright, initial exchange offerings. What do they do actually for exchange offerings is actually, they actually list the tokens on the exchange, and they'll help do the marketing itself. Now this is quite kind of an oxymoron, because in the traditional markets, you're not allowed to do that, right? You list your shares or your stock options, and you're not allowed to actually do any form of marketing from the company itself. You can use an external source. But because of regulations or the lack of regulations, there's an easier way for exchanges to actually do their listings on the tokens on their exchanges. One interesting evolution of the space is this thing called STOs, in the securities tokens offering. Now, in my opinion, STOs don't really work, other than the fact that they are just digitizing that share option that you have, or the equity option that you have for the company itself. So I won't go into this too much in details. All right. And so what is the next thing that's going to happen? Okay, so there is a rise of corporate coins in the market. How many of you here use Grab? Grab. All use Grab? Only a few. Cannot be never used. I can see that in Vietnam itself, there's also a Grab function. In Singapore as well. So there's a differentiation between a digital coin and a cryptocurrency token. Okay, and this corporate coin itself, what does it mean for us in moving forward? Now, I don't have an answer for you, because this is still moving and still evolving at this stage. Now, the biggest thing that came about and the news that came about was this thing called Libra from Facebook. How many of you heard of this, at least? How many of you know that Libra you can actually have the tokens already actually? Don't know? Yeah, see? So that's the issue, all right? Only those really who understands the code, the technical part, are they able to actually connect to that and do up and be part of that test beta program as well. Now for Libra itself, what are the ramifications that's going to happen to the economies of the world? Right, so and that's why there's a huge debate. There's a huge interest in all the governments around the world as to how Libra is going to help bridge forward. Now, the good points about Libra is that, of course, cross-border payments and cross-border transfers of funds is going to be easy. Now, but that opens up a whole can of worms for AML laws and KYC as well. And so, I guess that's something that the regulators are talking to Libra at this point of time and to specifically address this issue. Okay, I won't dwell too much into this, but know that moving forward, there will be a huge interest in big companies like Facebook, even though because they are the first one to mention this, I think there are plans that even certain major airlines has also mentioned that they also wanted to do some for corporate coins as well. I think you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Okay, so what's the way forward for crypto exchanges? And this is my opinion. So this is what I see that's going to happen. Okay, so I really addressed the beginning, the current situation, and so a few pointers that I want to bring up. Okay, instead of fighting with each other, I would think that the regulations or the regulatory bodies should actually work hand in hand with the industry players. Singapore itself has that approach, okay, and that's because of Access Singapore, who's working closely with MES to come up with the Digital Payments Act, and it's going to be hopefully by end of this year. It's been a year-long process that has been ongoing. So I have had the privilege to actually be part of that team. To be part of that organization to actually understand and share information on that. Now, do be careful because I've seen some claims that consultants were part of this act. But in actual fact, there's only one team that's doing this in Access Singapore itself. Okay, so do be careful of false claims on this. So a good example is Binance and Bitfinex. Why? Because I believe they themselves have taken an approach to actually ask the regulation of bodies to actually come together and say how to actually move forward with this itself. Now, with the influx of Binance that came to Singapore, they actually brought in more than $1 billion worth of trading volume that came into the shores, and this is what the government should be looking at basically, because the sudden flow of influx of people trading in the space itself in Singapore itself was exponential. All right. Suddenly, there's an influx of injection of cryptocurrencies that's in the space. Merger and acquisitions. With the crypto winter, I think that's actually killing a lot of small players. Small exchanges are not surviving. I do see that there's going to be a buy-up. Okay. I do see there's going to be a few merging together of crypto exchanges coming together, and some of the exchanges have already tried to do like an alliance kind of thing basically. So these are some information that the crypto exchanges have planned moving forward. Okay. The reason for this is also because there's too little demand. Like I mentioned to you, there's only like 1% of the entire world that actually deals with cryptocurrencies, correct? And there's a very low take-up rate in terms of adoption-wise as well. But there are also too many exchanges in the current space itself. China itself has more than a few hundred, I think in about thousands in terms of exchanges. All right, so who's counting? That's the problem. And will regulations help moving forward with that? And so, how can we actually help? In my opinion, is that for every one of us as an individual, we should actually come and think about the centralization of exchanges. In the long term, it's not going to be effective. The reason for this is because there's only so much you can do by themselves. Even Binance themselves have already come up with their own decentralized exchange, and we always take that as a market leader, how we want to follow the leader basically, right? And because Binance itself has already created that decentralization of the exchange, is something that we should pay attention to. Right, moving forward, most of the exchanges would hope to actually attain some form of decentralization. And how do they do that on a strategic level? I think that's something that can be mentioned offline, but feel free to ask me some questions on that. Regulations will take place as well. So when regulations come into play, there's going to be a lot of exchanges that will also be killed off in the process, and that's why I mentioned earlier in terms of M&A. So the reason for exchanges at this point of time is that when they start to list their tokens, the project's tokens itself, they're actually charging quite a substantial amount of money to the projects itself. So I'm going to play the devil's advocate over here. So I see some exchanges here. Don't kill me, okay? So for saying this, if you charge too much for your project itself, first of all, the money that was raised for their growth or for their business is a huge percentage is going into your exchanges. Why don't the exchange look for ways to actually help support the projects on a different level? I think that's something that should be taken and take note of at this point of time. Think about it this way: without any projects, there won't be any exchanges. Okay, there won't be any exchanges because what's there to list on the exchange, right? So instead of killing your own and cannibalizing by collecting huge amount of fees, you should be looking at how you actually provide value to the projects on a different level. Okay. So a short little brief about what decentralization of an exchange means is that they actually allow a lot more in terms of structures that can be formed with liquidity partners. Okay, exchanges can connect with Bitmain themselves directly. That's something that will provide a huge fresh funds, huge fresh liquidity in the market itself, and also the creation of new businesses because decentralization, autonomous organization, which is the DAOs, is going to happen in the next few years as well. And because of that, the exchanges themselves need to actually, future-proof themselves moving forward on this. And so here's the thing: you just heard earlier that an exchange was giving out loans and giving out interest to you guys. But did you ask yourself why? Have anyone asked you why? Why are exchanges giving out loans at this point of time? All right, so some of the major exchanges are giving. Binance have just started. Okay, earlier I think my co-esteemed colleague from Beatbox, Beatbox, also mentioned something about loans as well. Okay, the reason is even Grab themselves are giving out loans as well. You can see the advertisements in Singapore itself. I'm not sure if this is done in Vietnam itself. All this liquidity that's coming in, all this marketplace that has an influx of revenue that's coming into the company itself. There's an advent of companies like Grab, where they have this huge amount of resource that they can actually tap on by giving out some form of loans. For example, I'll just give you an example. In Singapore itself, there are actually packages that we can actually buy on a discounted rate. For example, let's say I put in $100 worth, I'm given 50% off of the $10 voucher that I'm going to get. So technically, I got 20 vouchers worth of $10. All right. So this was what was done in the last half a year. However, after that, they started to give out loans and interest, and think about this way. They are actually using what I put in, because I don't spend that money straight away. I'm using that to actually give and for the company to actually make some money from an interest perspective. Okay, so whether this falls under a banking law, there is actually new classifications which is called the digital bank in this aspect, so don't worry about that. I think regulators are also concerned about this, and they have been speaking to most of the companies on this. For your information, Singapore is giving out 3 licenses. I believe Grab will be one of them, okay, for the digital banking license basically. And so this is just an example, okay, of what an exchange or what other people are giving out. Right? They are giving out between 6 to 12% annualized returns, and what they are doing is actually a very smart move. Okay, moving forward. In fact, Singapore Bitcoin Club has partnered up with one of our partners to actually give this out to you guys as well, for people who have Bitcoin but don't know what to do with them. So the protection is from as such. The Bitcoin itself is protected, all right, because whatever that's put in, all right, will be returned to you in a percentage that's annualized. So I won't go into details. However, when the price goes up, and this is where the protection of the partners would need to come. They would need to actually provide this. They will pay out in fiat value instead of Bitcoin itself. This is just to protect them. If not, it will be too risky for them. Right. So. That comes to a conclusion of where cryptocurrencies or crypto exchanges would bring forward to. This is me on my LinkedIn. If you guys want to take a picture, you can take a picture. Okay. And this is my community. If you guys want to join the Singapore one, you can come and join in. This is on Telegram group, on Facebook, or if you want to just register with us to see if you want to learn some stuff, you can actually do that as well. So I'll open up the questions to the floor. Is there any questions on the floor with regards to anything? Nope? Okay, don't have, then we'll just close off the session. Thank you very much.